I'm a Canadian and I want to politically interfere in the American election. I have one follower and we will change your destiny. In 2025, I had planned to start a podcast focusing on critical thinking, a skill sorely lacking in today's culture. I'd intended to launch it after the election, as much of the low-hanging fruit for critical thinking seems to come from the mainstream media on the Democratic side. There is little need for critical thinking when it comes to Trump. He's a loud, offensive, bombastic, and abrasive by design individual. The media's relentless opposition to him doesn't leave much to analyze about Trump himself, but it does offer valuable lessons on how the media operates, especially how they treated him since 2015. The shift from journalism to propaganda has paved the way for independent voices like Joe Rogan and others to dominate the podcasting landscape. Even Alex Jones is back. The problem is that most people still get their information from mainstream news, which is largely fabricated. Independent podcasters that are not purveyors of the mainstream media narrative, they are dismissed as right-wing conspiracy theorists spreading misinformation. If, however, they toe the party line, which is usually hating Trump, they are assumed to be legitimate. Actually, I had my own censorship experience on Facebook. They banned me for violating community standards when I made a joke about COVID. The CDC at the time had reported 160,000 COVID deaths, but 15,000 were attributed to accidents and suicides. So I joked about someone falling off a balcony and dying of COVID. I was banned. How does that even make sense, especially compared to the other things I had posted? America, whether you see it or not, Caesar has entered the building and has orchestrated a divide and conquer strategy against your country. You have two groups, lovers of Trump and haters of Trump, that are so emotionally charged. Clear thinking has taken a back seat to everyone. The whole world sees this, but it seems you don't. There's no place in the American Republic where you love or hate a leader based on tribal instincts. Every leader should be scrutinized harshly on policies and character. In Canada, we are 10 years into this tribalism and it is killing our nation. This is why critical thinking is so important and more important than ever. Too many people are accepting biased narratives without question on both sides of the political landscape, and this helps no one. Social media was blatantly biased in the last election, and they've even admitted to it. I don't expect anything to change because there were no consequences for their actions. It's ironic that demanding Facebook to stop censoring certain voices is now labeled as election interference. Think about that. Allowing free speech against the government is seen as election interference, but parading Zelensky to a missile factory in a swing state so he can sign bombs is normal? What is happening? I believe it's time for everyone to speak out loudly. This election is critical, not just for the US, but for the whole world. When the US holds an election, it affects global order. Everyone has a stake in this. We're on the verge of World War III, and yet polls show the country split 50-50. How is that even possible? My interest in politics began with Ronald Reagan and continued through the Bush years. I even liked Bill Clinton because he was so charismatic, in stark contrast to his wife Hillary, who seemed to hold contempt for everyone. I even liked Obama, who in some ways was the whitest black man in America. I've never been tied to any political party. I believe in policy over rhetoric, but with Obama and during his administration, I realized that both the Democratic and Republican parties had essentially merged, especially on the issues of war.
Look, I just recently did an event with Liz Cheney, the former congresswoman.
I know.
Her father, the former vice president, Dick Cheney, has supported me.
Unbelievable.
There are over 200 former members of both Bush presidencies, John McCain, Mitt Romney, who have endorsed me.
Right.
Leading thinkers in the national security.
Traditionally, Republicans loved war, but under Clinton and Obama, with Hillary as Secretary of State, they set the world on fire. Look at Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, now Russia, Ukraine, which has escalated to now full-scale conflict. Meanwhile, Israel is forced to defend itself only to be hated for doing so. Billions are being spent on weapons for Ukraine, while trillions of Ukraine's resources are being prepared for pillage, with speculation that Zelensky is taking cut out of everything. This seems totally Republican to me. The real political divide today isn't between liberal and conservative. It's between globalism and nationalism. This tribal divide only invites emotional responses, not critical thinking approaches, because it is an all or nothing or zero-sum game being played. Critical thinking will lead to mutually beneficial outcomes. The rest of the world can see this issue clearly. Democrats represent the globalists. No offense intended, but no one seriously believes Biden and Harris have been running the government for the past 4 years, and nothing will change if Harris wins another term. People, your First Amendment is being stolen from you, but the propaganda machine couldn't escape Fox News.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
But nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Now, it's bewildering to me that after she watched herself say there'd be no changes, she then goes on to say that her administration would not be a continuation of Biden's. In critical thinking, you have to separate the players from the actors. Again, not faulting or trying to trash Kamala, but she is a chosen frontman. Hillary wasn't. And what that means is she only knows talking points and does not understand when she contradicts herself. I would not change Biden's direction, but I will have a different direction. It's a completely illogical statement for her. She can't give an answer as she doesn't know them yet. She does not make the decisions. Now, if you're a critical thinker and the main news sources all are against one candidate and will censor the gaffes of the other, then you should be suspicious of, in this case, Kamala. Propaganda supports the unholy alliance between the government and the oligarchs. This has always been the case. The analysis in this election is straightforward. The Democratic ticket, Harris and Walz, they've done little or nothing of significance in their lives other than getting elected or appointed to office. We only speculate who backs them, but we have a good idea who controls them. The Republican ticket, Trump and Vance, Trump, super wealthy and accomplished, has literally taken a bullet for his country. Vance, a self-made millionaire, is a military war veteran, tough and proven. Walz left the war before he even got his gun loaded. No one can claim to control Trump. He can't even control his own mouth or his social media. But look at who's backing Trump. RFK Jr., a lifelong Democrat, with his uncle assassinated as a sitting president and his father assassinated running for president. Accomplished, who is a major threat to the pharma industry. Vivek Ramaswamy, a self-made billionaire in 2 different industries, who has donated to both parties. And then there's Elon Musk, the richest man in the world and a lifelong Democrat. And what about the other great Americans like Tulsi Gabbard, an elected Democrat from Hawaii? This is an old school Democratic ticket. Democrats have 2 choices: stick with the current progressive left or return to the rational Democratic Party of the past, like your parents knew. There's no real Republican option on the table anymore. Harris can talk all she wants about economy, inflation, the border, fentanyl, small business, etc. But she's already said it will be business as usual, so expect 4 more years of the same. Trump and his team can execute. That's why they're all billionaires. They know how to get things done. Now, if you had to pick an A team to go head to head with Putin, Xi, or any other villain, who would you choose? A school teacher or a guy who owns the EV market, owns Twitter, Neuralink, invented ChatGPT, oh yeah, and he controls space. Are you serious? The polls are 50-50? In Canada, 8 years ago, there was a choice we had between a school teacher, actually he was a drama teacher, he was a part-time drama teacher. He was a bisexual, weed-smoking playboy who was going for prime minister. The other choice was Marc Garneau, graduate of the highest military college in Canada, PhD in electrical engineering, Navy veteran, and one more thing. What was it? Oh yeah, he worked for NASA for 16 years and flew the space shuttle 3 times. What a tough decision for Canadians to make. But you guessed it, Canadians elected the bisexual, weed-smoking playboy whose mother slept with all of the Rolling Stones and Fidel Castro while married to his father, the Canadian Prime Minister at the time. People make bad decisions, and the consequences of it are disaster. Now, by every metric, Canada has sunk to the bottom of the first world nations in every single way. This is where the country is right now. Look at this video.
More RCMP coming through. This is the RCMP being attacked. RCMP tried to get through Justin Trudeau's office. This is the RCMP trying to get through. This is the RCMP in front of Justin Trudeau's office getting attacked. This is the RCMP trying to get through here. The RCMP just tried to get through here. We're attacked by a mob. The RCMP attacked by this mob. The RCMP now retreating. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police retreating.
This is where Canada is right now. The Prime Minister could not get to his office, it seems, because of a handful of Palestinian protesters. I understand there's a visceral hatred towards Trump, but please, for the love of God, don't let your hatred allow you to make the biggest mistake of your country's history. Use your brain.